Hey there, and welcome to Authentically ADHD. I'm your host, Carmen, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a podcast where we get real about ADHD. No filters, no judgment, a safe space to explore and learn and grow. If you're here, it's because you want to take a deep dive into the world of ADHD, and trust me, we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. Now, you're probably wondering, why did I start this podcast? Well, in true ADHD fashion, it all started very impulsively. One day, I thought, I should start a podcast, especially with all this paperwork that I have and all these notes that I have trying to understand my own ADHD. And the next thing I knew, here I am, sharing thoughts with you. I don't know, 200, 100 episodes later? I don't know. I lose track of time. I'm time blind. Are you? Anyways, when you have ADHD, ideas come fast, and sometimes you just gotta roll with them. Honestly, this podcast was born out of my passion for understanding ADHD in a deeper way with the newest research. You see, pills don't teach skills. That's something I've learned over the years. Medication can help, and it's a great tool to use, but true growth, that comes from knowledge, understanding, and actionable skills. And so that's what I want to share with you. Research-backed insights, practical tips, and lived experiences of someone who's been there. Now, a little bit about me. I'm not just a host of this podcast. I'm also an early childhood special education teacher, which means I've spent years understanding how children learn, grow, and thrive in ways that work for them, especially when they're neurodiverse. And I'm also a certified life and performance coach, guiding people to unlock their full potential in both their personal and professional lives. But here's the thing that makes me a little different. I'm also a late diagnosed ADHDer. And on top of that, I self-identify as being on the autism spectrum. So when I talk about ADHD, it's not just from a professional perspective, it's from lived experience, because I get it. I know what it's like to feel like your brain is running at full speed while everyone else is moving at a different pace, and you have instructions that are in Japanese and upside down, and everybody else got them in their own language. Throughout this podcast, I'll share all kinds of insights about navigating life with ADHD, from the everyday struggles to the strengths that we can celebrate. We'll talk about everything from time management to relationships to self-advocacy, and all about how to live authentically in a world that often asks us to be anything but. Whether you have ADHD yourself or you want to understand it better, you are in the right place. So, let's get started. Hey there, my ADHD tribe. I have an offer for you. Do you ever feel like you're constantly juggling, but somehow always dropping the ball? You're not alone. We've all been there. I struggle still to manage time, stay organized, and to keep track of the never-ending to-do list. I'm Carmen, and I get it. Trust me, that's why I have created Thriving Authentically with ADHD, Executive Functions and Coping Strategies. It's a course designed to help you take control of your ADHD brain instead of letting it control you. But here's the kicker. It's not just a course. It's a journey. For only $25, you'll get access to about 3 hours of exclusive ADHD-friendly content that breaks down the executive functions in simple terms and explains why your ADHD brain works in the way that it does. And most executive functions, most importantly, it'll teach you practical, research-backed coping strategies that you can start using today. From working memory struggles to time blindness to emotional regulation, we cover it all. Plus, you'll get a workbook in your email packed with interactive exercises to help you reflect on your own ADHD journey, track your progress, and apply what you've learned at your own pace. But that's not all. You also will get 2 personalized coaching sessions where we can dive into your specific challenges and create strategies that work for you. No more one-size-fits-all solutions. Just real, authentic, tailored support. And the best part, you get all this for just $25. That's less than a cost of a meal out. Plus, with my proven strategies, you can start improving your executive function skills in no time. Imagine finally understanding your ADHD brain and learning how to thrive and not just survive. Don't wait too long. The spots are limited. Sign up today and let's get started on your journey to thriving authentically with ADHD. Hi there, and welcome back to Authentically ADHD. I am Carmen, your host, and today we are revisiting in a topic that might hit very close to home for a lot of us, the confusing intersection of ADHD, alexithymia, and anhedonia. Now, those are some big clinical sounding words, but don't worry. Unlike the last podcast episode I did about this, we're going to break it down in plain language and talk about how they overlap in real life. So if you've ever thought, why can't I figure out what I'm feeling, or why don't I enjoy things the way that I used to, or if you find yourself emotionally drained after a long day of masking your ADHD traits, this episode is for you. In the next 25 to 30 minutes, we're going to mix a little bit of neuroscience in a friendly, non-intimidating way with some personal stories. I'll share some of my own experiences and we'll explore what research says about why these experiences happen. By the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of what ADHD, alexithymia, and anhedonia really mean and why they often go hand in hand, especially in neurodivergent folks just like us. Then, of course, some practical ways to cope and thrive. We'll also bust a few common myths and misunderstandings, including why these issues often get overlooked and dismissed, especially in women and people diagnosed later in life. As always, we are going to wrap it up with strategies and a big dose of validation and hope. So, if you're ready, let's get started. Before we delve into how these things intersect, let's clearly define each term. They each describe a different piece of a puzzle of our emotional and mental life. Understanding what they are will help us to connect what they do. So, in a nutshell, we all know ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by persistent patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. Okay? It interferes with daily functioning. Okay? And it can look very different in every adult. Alexithymia is a disorder. No, let's restart that. Alexithymia is not a disorder. It's a personality trait or profile. It's often described as having difficulty identifying and describing your emotions. The word literally means without word for emotion. If you have alexithymia, you might have strong emotions physically, like a racing heart or knot in your stomach, but struggle to pinpoint what that emotion is. Anxiety, hunger, anger, I don't know. And finding the words to express it. Alexithymia exists on a spectrum. Some people have mild trouble, others it's more severe. It frequently co-occurs with neurodivergent conditions. In fact, research suggests that a significant subset of people with ADHD, estimates range about 20 to 40%, they also have alexithymia. So, if you have ADHD and you've always felt out of touch with your emotions, alexithymia might be a concept that resonates with you. Then there's anhedonia. Anhedonia is, again, not a disorder, but it's an inability or reduced ability to experience pleasure. It's like the volume knob for enjoyment is turned way down. People with anhedonia struggle to feel joy or interest in activities that either used to be fun or rewarding or that they used to enjoy. This term is often discussed in the context of depression, since losing pleasure is a core symptom of depressive episodes, but it's not exclusive to depression. As we explore, anhedonia can also show up in ADHD. If you find that hobbies, socializing, or accomplishments don't light you up in the way that they do for others, or maybe the way that they once did for you, anhedonia could be at play here. it can feel like an emotional flatness or being chronically uninspired or blah. You want things, but the feeling isn't there. Each of these three, ADHD, alexithymia, and anhedonia, are distinct. ADHD is an officially recognized neurodevelopmental condition affecting the attention and self-regulation, and alexithymia is a descriptive trait about emotional awareness, and anhedonia is a symptom state of not experiencing pleasure. Yet, despite their differences, these experiences often overlap and tangle together, especially for us neurodivergent individuals. When someone has ADHD, they're more likely to experience traits of alexithymia and may be more prone to anhedonia or low hedonic tone, meaning a low baseline or ability to feel a reward. So, why is this? Let's dig into a little bit of brain science kindly to find out. So, ADHD, alexithymia, and anhedonia. Why do they often form in trio? To answer that, we need to talk about how our brains process emotions and rewards. Don't worry, we're going to keep it conversational. Imagine your brain as an orchestra. Different sections handle different parts of the emotions and different parts of the music, right? So it controls different parts of the music. When everything is in tune, you get a harmonious experience of life. You feel your emotions, you find joy in activities, you focus when you need to. With ADHD, alexithymia, and anhedonia, some sections of the orchestra are either playing off-key, playing too quietly, and so you can't hear them, or they're not playing at all. One key player here is dopamine. The neurotransmitter often nicknamed as the reward chemical. Dopamine is heavily involved in motivation, pleasure, and attention. Basically, the brain's way of saying, hey, this is important or fun, so focus on it. In ADHD brains, dopamine signaling doesn't work typically. It can be underactive or dysregulated. Think of it like a weak Wi-Fi signal in the reward circuits of the brain. Messages about reward and pleasure just aren't getting through as fast or strong enough. Because of this, everyday tasks might not feel as rewarding to somebody with ADHD as they do to somebody who doesn't have ADHD. Science actually shows that ADHD-related dopamine impairments can dysregulate the brain's reward processing and lead to anhedonia, with difficulty of feeling pleasure in some individuals. In other words, the same brain chemistry quirk that makes it hard to concentrate can also turn down the volume on enjoyment and motivation. So, what about alexithymia? While dopamine is more about the reward system, alexithymia has a lot to do with our brain's emotional awareness and interoception, a fancy word for sensing the internal state of your body, self-awareness. Some research believe that alexithymia is essentially a problem with how the brain's insula and related regions process internal signals. The insula is like the brain's monitor for bodily and, emotional sensations. It helps you notice a fast heartbeat and connect it to I feel anxious, for example. In alexithymia, that monitoring system can be glitchy. Emotions are still happening under the hood. We still produce the bodily reactions and basic emotional responses, but the translation of those signals into conscious awareness and labels doesn't work well. So if the brain if the brain doesn't label emotions correctly at all. This is why someone with alexithymia can't seem calm or unaffected. They could seem like that internally or externally, while internally their heart is pounding and they truly might not recognize what they're feeling, or they might just register a vague discomfort without an emotional label. Interestingly, alexithymia has been called a disconnect between the emotional and the thinking parts of the brain. The emotional signals are there, but the cortex, the thinking brain, can't interpret them properly. So how do these all tie together? ADHD and alexithymia share some overlap brain differences. For one, both are linked to difficulties with emotional regulation. ADHD is not just about attention. If you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, you know that. Many experts now recognize that emotional impulsivity and difficulty regulating feelings are core aspects of ADHD for many people. If you have ADHD, you might feel things more intensely, but also more fleetingly. You can struggle to manage those feelings. For example, quick frustration or being easily hurt by criticism, then rapidly switching to another mood. Now add alexithymia into the mix. You have big emotions, possibly ADHD related, but very poor insight into them. This is a very challenging combination. In fact, having alexithymia can make it even harder for ADHDers to understand and regulate their emotional ups and downs. It's like trying to drive a car with super sensitive gas pedal, your ADHD emotions, and a really foggy windshield. Alexithymia blocking your view of what's happening inside of you. Neuroscience also hints at other overlaps. Both ADHD and alexithymia have been associated with atypical functioning in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center, and in connections between the cortex and the deeper emotional brain regions. ADHD's executive function challenges mean that the brain can struggle to pause and reflect, which might also affect the ability to reflect on and name one's emotions. If you're constantly chasing the next stimulus or fighting to focus, you might not always have the bandwidth to analyze, what am I feeling right now? Similarly, alexithymia may involve less activation or connectivity in areas where the body integrates bodily states into emotional awareness. So there's even some evidence pointing to dopamine's role in emotional awareness. Conditions with dopamine dysfunction, like Parkinson's disease and yes, ADHD, can show high rates of alexithymia. In summary, the brain's reward system and emotion systems are interconnected. The ADHD's neurochemistry, like dopamine, can set the stage for anhedonia. Meanwhile, ADHD's cognitive and emotional dysregulation can set the stage for alexithymia. So when these worlds collide in daily life, we have emotional regulation woes. With ADHD, emotions can be intense and quick to change, but also quickly forgotten. Add alexithymia and you might not even know what you're feeling until it boils over. When in reality, we felt an emotion sudden and so strongly that it was hard to modulate it. Now imagine not having a good handle on what that emotion is. That's the alexithymia piece. You might go from 0 to 60, calm to furious or panicked without recognizing that you're getting upset until you're past the breaking point. Afterwards, you might struggle to explain to someone or even yourself why you acted that way. I call it emotional whiplash. You're overwhelmed by feelings one moment and then utterly numb the next. That numbness can be a form of anhedonia or emotional shutdown, a brain response where after so much intense feeling and confusion, you just kind of go blank. Over time, experiencing this roller coaster can make you anxious by your own emotional reactions. What if I explode or break down or shut down and I don't even know why? Another thing is motivation and reward. This is a common ADHD experience, struggling to start or finish tasks that aren't inherently interesting or rewarding because our brains crave stimulation. So even if hobbies you know you used to love might not give you the dopamine they once did, which can be deeply frustrating, and you might cycle through activities or careers or relationships, always searching for the next spark of joy or interest. Your brain is understimulated and under-rewarded, making sustained effort feel like running a marathon with ankle weights on. This affects our daily functioning with the executive function and our social life and our relationships. Things like planning, organizing, and time management are already a challenge for us. Combine these with emotional, motivational difficulties, and daily life can get chaotic, and emotions and enjoyment are huge parts of how we connect with others. So when you have alexithymia, people might perceive you as distant, cold, or uninterested because you don't express emotions in a typical way or struggle to empathize verbally. You might care deeply, but you don't show it with, I'm so happy for you, or I'm upset about this, because you can't quite identify those feelings in the first place. With ADHD, you might interrupt or space out in conversations or feel emotions so strongly that come on so intensely, which can be hard for others to navigate. Then add anhedonia. Maybe you just stop wanting to go out with friends or initiating activities because you don't find joy in them. People think you're avoiding them or being negative. Misunderstandings abound, and then a friend might think you don't care about their troubles because you didn't show much emotion when they were sad, when in fact you did care but just didn't really know or couldn't express it. A partner might feel hurt that you never seem to be excited about doing things together anymore and that you're disengaged. In daily life, when others become mindful of potential and misinterpretations, where your internal state and your outward actions do not align up in the expected way for society. Everything you just described can seriously affect one's self-esteem and mental health too. So it's really, really difficult. And so it's common for people in this overlap to start thinking, what is wrong with me? Or to assume that they're just bad at life or broken. Let me assure you, you're not broken and you're not alone. There are explanations for why you feel the way you do. And we're definitely going to go into some of these misunderstandings and misdiagnosis. When you're dealing with these things, ADHD, alexithymia, and anhedonia, other people in your life and even some professionals might not get it. These conditions, particularly alexithymia and anhedonia, are often invisible. ADHD is too, hint, hint. So some of the things that can be misunderstood, let's clear that up. You're just being lazy or unmotivated. How many of us with ADHD have heard that one? It's a classic misunderstanding. They see us as the procrastinator, struggle to start and finish, lack of enthusiasm, but we literally have an ADHD brain with anhedonia, and it's literally underpowered in the reward and motivation department. Science has our back here. Studies confirm that ADHD involves differences in dopamine and reward processing. It can make it harder just to feel motivation and pleasure. So telling someone with this issue to just try harder is as effective as telling someone with glasses to squint harder. It really misses the biological reality. Everyone feels that way. Just suck it up. This often comes up when talking about things like emotional overwhelm or lack of enjoyment or even just losing your keys. Sure, everyone has days where they don't feel like doing anything or times they can't put feelings into words. But for us, these aren't rare blips. They're frequent, everyday, life-shaping experiences. And dismissing them with everyone does that minimizes our very real difference in intensity and frequency in our lives, particularly for women and adults who get diagnosed later in life. This is dismissive and can be pronounced, okay? For example, women with ADHD might be told for years that their struggles were due to stress or hormones or anxiety or it's normal, parenting is just hard, you're tired. Their very valid difficulties were waved away until somebody finally connected the dots. ADHD, often years later than it should have been. And research shows that women often get diagnosed later than men, on average several years later, due to these biases and the tendency for women to mask symptoms or present differently. By the time a woman is diagnosed in adulthood, because the average age of diagnosis for an adult woman is 25 or 26, she might have had a long history of having challenges brushed off. Similarly, her alexithymia may have been what's misreading her as stoic or her anhedonia as you're such a downer. What's really happening is a neurodevelopmental condition flying under the radar, not a personality choice. You seem fine to me. You're just not trying to feel or enjoy things. This one really doesn't need an explanation because how do you try to feel or enjoy things? I don't know. Do you? If you have ADHD, you probably don't. Gender stereotypes and masking. Like I said before, little white boys are way more at chance to get diagnosis early in childhood rather than the little girls that get passed along because we're people pleasers and we know how to mask. Women with ADHD often become expert maskers, consciously or unconsciously camouflaging our ADHD symptoms to fit expectations. This could mean forcing ourselves to stay quiet and sit still or over-prepare for work tasks and hide disorganization, or mimicking other women's emotional expressions to not seem off. But masking is exhausting, and yet, because of that mask, teachers, bosses, or doctors never see the problem, and they only see the burnout afterwards. As a result, many women's difficulties are written off or misdiagnosed as anxiety and depression, when they probably do have anxiety and depression, but that's not the whole picture. Let me take off the host hat for a moment and speak as me. A while back, I had a day that really encapsulates this trio. It was a regular work day, and like many of you, I put on my mask in the morning. I was determined to be professional Carmen, organized, friendly, and on top of emails, deadlines, etc. All day long, I was in overdrive, double-checked that I didn't miss social cues in meetings, thanks RSD, holding me back from fidgeting to appear calm, forcing myself to focus on tasks by sheer will. And by 3:45 p.m., I had used every trick in the book to seem fine. And it worked. I got through the day without any obvious slip-ups, but as I drove home, I felt this heavy, indescribable cloud settle over me. My chest was tight and my head was foggy. If someone would have asked, how do you feel, I honestly would have said, I have no idea. I had sensations, fatigue, a slight headache, an empty stomach, but I couldn't label them as emotions. Was I anxious, sad, or just tired? I genuinely couldn't tell, and that's the alexithymia. It's like having a palette of only gray paints when trying to describe a sunset. I just didn't have the colorful words to name what was going on inside. When I walked through the door at home, my partner was there, excited to see me and eager to talk about his day. Normally, I'd expect I should feel some happiness to reunite, maybe relief to be at home. Instead, I felt nothing, flat, numb. It's not that I don't love him or wasn't interested. I simply had no emotional energy left and no capacity to feel pleasure or excitement in that moment. I remember he said, I have some good news, and he started telling me about a promotion he got, and I mustered a smile and just kind of went along. That's great, but even as I sat down, I knew I didn't feel the excitement that I normally would, and I hated that. I hated that I couldn't just feel joy for him or even for myself. Part of me thought, shouldn't I be happy? This is good news. Instead of joy, I just felt like an empty cup that had no drops of happiness to pour out. That's Anhedonia. It had crept in after a whole day of running my brain on overdrive and ignoring my own feelings. My brain sort of shut off and the pleasure center as the way to conserve the energy. At least that's how I kind of visualize it. As the evening went on, things didn't improve. My partner noticed I was distant, kept asking if I was okay. I was physically on the couch next to him, but mentally I was a million miles away. I was overwhelmed, and we both sat there a bit stunned because I just kind of blew up. I don't know what's wrong, okay? I just can't feel anything right now. There were tears in my eyes at this point. Finally, an emotion broke through. I was overwhelmed. So that little outburst led to a long conversation once I calmed down and explained as best I could. The reason I'm sharing this story is to highlight few key things that many people in this overlap experience. Masking and the depletion that follows, emotional blindness, that's alexithymia, the relationship strain that it causes, and just the lack of language for emotions. The good news is learning about ADHD, alexithymia, had helped us both find more compassion. So now we have a shorthand. I can say, I'm in a bit of a numb space, need to recharge, and he gets it. It's not about him, and he knows when I say I don't know what I'm feeling, that I'm not hiding anything. I legitimately need time or help to figure it out because I legitimately don't know. Maybe you recognize yourself in parts of the story or parts of a partner, friend, or child. If so, I hope that it shows you you're not alone and these challenges and moments are not personal feelings. They're linked to how our brains work. Now that that's over, let's dig into these practical strategies. But first, a word from our sponsors. Hi, this is a disclaimer that I am a early childhood special education teacher. I am a certified life and performance coach, and I am a podcaster. All right, I am not a medical doctor, and none of this information should be used in supplement of a medical professional and or therapy. Hey there. If you're looking for a game changer in managing your ADHD, let me tell you about something that's made a huge impact on my life. Focused, the Adult ADHD Group Coaching Program by Kristen Carter. This isn't just another program. It's a community. It's a roadmap. It's a lifeline for adults with ADHD who want to thrive. Inside of Focus, you'll find weekly coaching calls with Kristen packed with actionable insights, a supportive community of adults who get it. They get what it's like to live with ADHD. You'll get tools and strategies that actually work for our brains. No fluff, just real results. I've been a part of Focused for over a year, and let me tell you, it's where I've learned so much of what I share with you on Authentically ADHD. It's been a game changer for me, and I think it could be for you too. And here's the best part. If you use my link to join, we both save money. It's a win-win. So if you've been looking for the right ADHD support, this is your sign to check it out. Head to the link in my show notes to learn more and sign up. Let's thrive together with tools and support that we need to succeed. Are you also loving what we're doing on Authentically ADHD but want to take your experience to the next level? Well, I have got something for you. Introducing the Authentically ADHD Patreon, your VIP pass to the ultimate ADHD support hub. As a Patreon member, you'll unlock exclusive perks like early access to every single episode, hear it before anyone else does, a treasure trove of resources that I've made, tools, guides, and worksheets to help you thrive in everyday aspects of life, direct coaching opportunities with me designed to help you harness your ADHD powers, and the cherry on top, an incredible community of like-minded individuals who just get it. You're not alone on this journey, and together we can be unstoppable. By joining Patreon, you're not just supporting the podcast, you're fueling a movement. Together, we're breaking stigmas, embracing authenticity, and creating a world where ADHD is seen as a strength and not just a struggle. So what are you waiting for? Head over to patreon.com/authenticallyADHD and join the family today. Let's keep growing, thriving, and showing up authentically together. Hope to see you over there. Back to the show. All right, let's talk strategies for managing these overlapping challenges. Living at the intersection of ADHD, Alexithymia, and Anhedonia can be really tough, but there are ways to cope and improve your quality of life. It often takes a combination of neuroscience-informed techniques to work with your brain's wiring and mindset shifting or coaching tools to stay motivated and kind to yourself. So here are some strategies and tips that blend both approaches. Remember, use what works for you and trash the rest. Dopamine boosters and brain care. Since we both know that dopamine is a key player in both ADHD and anhedonia, doing things that boost your brain's dopamine and overall neural health can help. Exercise is one of the best natural dopamine boosters. A brisk walk, dancing to your favorite song, hitting the gym can elevate your dopamine levels and mood. Even short movement breaks in your day might help you feel more may help you feel more alert and positive. Similarly, getting enough sleep and eating protein-rich foods can support neurotransmitters. Some people benefit from ADHD medications, stimulants like methylphenidate or amphetamines or non-stimulants. These meds can increase dopamine and norepinephrine availability and can indirectly improve anhedonia and emotional regulation for some. Of course, medication is a personal decision with a professional, but it's worth noting that it can address more than just focus. Think of it as giving your brain the fuel it needs to register reward and keep the orchestra of the whole thing in tune. Emotional literacy tools. To tackle alexithymia, it can be incredibly helpful to build a habit of naming emotions regularly, even if at first you're just guessing. One practical tool is an emotion wheel or a list of feeling words. When you're feeling something, good or bad or physical or mental, pause and scan the list of emotion words to see if any of them resonate. You may be surprised. Sometimes seeing a word like irritated or wistful can click and you realize, yeah, that's it. This external prompt can train your brain over time to identify feelings internally. Another tool is journaling. Try writing without worrying about being right. For example, write, I feel, kind of empty and tense. That's a valid start. Over time, you'll notice patterns, and some therapies can actually help you connect these to what you're feeling. Like having a tensed jaw or a racing heart can mean that you're anxious or scared. This builds the brain's pathways to recognize emotions, and it can feel awkward at first, especially if you've gone your whole life not doing this. But it gets easier with practice, and it's super worth it. Mindfulness and introspective exercises. Mindfulness is not just a trendy buzzword. It has real benefits for people with emotional awareness issues and ADHD. Practices like mindful breathing, body scans, or short meditations teach you to notice what's happening in your body and mind without judgment. This directly tackles alexithymia by training your interoception awareness. The more you practice paying attention inside, the more attuned you become to those subtle signals. For example, a daily 5-minute body scan, mentally checking from head to toe, can increase your ability to notice that my shoulders are tense, my heart rate is up, and then importantly, connect those to an emotion. I might be stressed. Mindfulness also helps ADHD by improving focus and reducing impulsivity. On the neuroscience side, mindfulness has been shown to strengthen connections in the brain regions responsible for emotional regulation and self-awareness. It's like a gym workout for the insula and prefrontal cortex. If a classic meditation is hard, many ADHD folks find it challenging to sit still. Don't worry, mindfulness can be practiced in ADHD-friendly ways like, different things like ADHD friendly ways, like you can take a walk or mindful dishwashing or using the, guided ones, focusing on the sensation of the water and the soap during hand washing. It's the key to periodically tuning inward so you don't have to just sit still. Over time, you might start catching emotional cues that you used to miss. Then there's breaking the Anhedonia cycle. When pleasure is low, often our instinct is to stop doing what we're doing. Why bother if it's not fun, right? But research and clinical wisdom, especially from depression treatment, suggests the opposite. Keep doing the things, even in small doses. There is a concept called behavioral activation, which basically means scheduling and engaging in activities that align with your values or interests, even if you don't feel like it. It really helps. The reason is that the action can sometimes reignite the feeling, even if it's slowly. For ADHD brains, it helps to make these activities novel or varied to spark interest. If you used to love painting but now feel nothing from it, maybe try a different medium. Switch watercolors to acrylics, or take a low-pressure art class to add social interaction to it, which provides another dopamine kick. Set tiny goals and celebrate tiny wins. Instead of, I should clean the entire house, but I have no energy or drive to, commit to 5 minutes of tidying one corner. Sometimes momentum builds and you get a small sense of accomplishment. Hey, 5 minutes is better than 0. Rewarding yourself extrinsically, since the intrinsic reward is low. For example, after that 5 minutes, tidying, allow yourself 5 minutes of your favorite podcast or a piece of chocolate. Yeah, it might feel silly to bribe your brain, but it responds better that way. By pairing little tasks with a little treat, you're training your brain that doing these things can lead to something positive. And over time, this can combat the inertia that anhedonia can cause. Communication and education with loved ones. This is more of a coaching relationship tool, but it is so important. The people in your life won't know what you're going through unless you find ways to tell them. It might help to share articles or different things about ADHD, alexithymia, or anhedonia, emotional challenges, with close friends or family. Sometimes just sending them a podcast like this. Sometimes seeing it described in writing by an expert makes it click for them, like, oh, this is a real thing. In my story, my partner only truly understood my emotions when I explained the concepts to him. Now we have a system. So educating others creates a support network around you instead of a judgment network. Now we're talking the hard stuff, self-compassion and mindset shifts. This is last but definitely not least. It's your relationship with yourself. Managing these overlapping conditions is the long game. But with good days and bad, it's easy to get frustrated at yourself. Like, why can't I just do this? Why can't I just be normal? But beating yourself up actually makes the cycle worse. Remember, these challenges aren't your fault. They're rooted in brain wiring and chemistry. So what you can control is how you respond to them. So try to cultivate a kinder inner voice on a day when you get nothing done because you just couldn't find the motivation and you felt emotionally blah. Instead of, I wasted the day, I suck, I'm terrible, practice saying, today was hard, my brain needed a break, it's okay, and I can try again tomorrow. This is not letting yourself off the hook in a bad way. It's acknowledging reality and refusing to add insult to injury. A coach once told me to talk to myself like I would talk a dear friend. I loved that advice. I'd never tell my best friend that you're lazy and hopeless. I'd say you're struggling, but I believe in you and you can get through this. So why not offer that same thing to yourself? Neuroscience actually backs this up. Self-compassion and self-compassionate thinking and thoughts can reduce stress hormones and make it easier to bounce back and problem solve. One mindset shift I find helpful is reframing tasks or emotions as experiments or for information. If I fail to complete something due to low motivation, I can ask what might help next time. Maybe I need to work in a cafe or stimulation or have an accountability buddy like body doubling. So, if I can't identify an emotion in the moment, right? I note it, and then later on, I can reflect. What might that have been? Treat it all as a learning experience rather than proof that you're inadequate. Blending these strategies from practical hacks to mental shifts can create a supportive structure to navigate your life. Everyone's mix will look different. Some might lean more onto medication and externalizing tools. Others might focus on therapy and habits. There is no one-size-fits-all, and that's okay. Over time, you'll refine what works best for you. The important thing is knowing that improvement is possible. Not overnight, but you'll never be a bubbly ball of motivation 24/7. Nobody is. But you can definitely make strides in understanding yourself and functioning better with these challenges. We have covered a lot in this episode, from big scientific concepts to deeply personal moments. If your head is spinning, that's all right. Let's take a deep breath together. Ready? In and out. The intersection of these three things, no doubt, can impact every aspect of your life, okay? This is what I want to leave you with. There is hope, and you're not alone. If you saw yourself in anything we discussed today or someone else you think might relate, please share it. Share it on your social media. Give me some feedback. I love to hear it. Also, remember that practice self-compassion, really. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would show a friend. I hope this episode left you feeling understood and empowered. ADHD, Alexithymia, and Anhedonia might be part of your story, but they aren't your whole story. You have creativity, intellect, humor, kindness, and all those qualities remain. You are beautifully you, no matter what you need. And you get to write the next chapters in a way that honors who you are and what you need. Thank you for spending this time with me and being a part of the Authentically ADHD community. Remember, you're not alone. Until next time, stay authentic and keep living your truth, and we will talk soon.